Oh yeah, we should be holding the
Like,
mics. Not way down here. Yeah. Yeah. Holding the mics. Justin, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, let's kick it off. Thank you guys for being here. We're gonna apologize to you as well at home. We're sorry it is so hot.
It's just terrible. I don't know how you're going to deal with it.
We're in the middle of a heat wave.
Denver set records today and yesterday, or no, and Friday.
Yeah.
Today was the hottest day it's ever been in Denver for this date.
On this date.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not great. And speaking of hot, let's introduce our guest, Eric Golden. You see how good that was? Anyway, this is my very good friend, Eric Golden. He has been a Performance High person for a long, long time, or going back a long ways at least, and is now one of the busiest guys in Colorado in music. And we just finished an album that is coming out. Well, we're going to talk about when it's coming out. So anyway, Eric, thanks for coming by, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
glad
fun.
to be here. Speaking of the heat, I just finished playing outdoors on a Sunday from 100
Oh,
degree
how was it? I
temperature,
hope you
Yeah.
had shade. Did
It
you have
was
shade?
actually stage was shaded.
Good.
And there was actually some cloud cover today. So even though it was like miserably hot,
Yeah.
it wasn't like we were getting hammered by
You
the
were-
sun. There was a breeze. I'm like, for 100 degrees in July, this could be worse.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
weren't getting nuked by the sun, which will definitely happen here.
Well, we had this week every Thursday night we played an outdoor gig in Highlands Ranch, and the shade on the stage passed just as we were starting.
yeah.
So we played 6:30 to 8, and we had the sun at our back the whole time. And then let's see, we had Friday night. The stage faced east, so the sun was kind of behind us,
geez.
but it was angled slightly. So like as the night went on, the side of the stage just kind of kept getting more and more sun. But again, it was 100 degrees, and it was a 5:30 to
yeah,
8
yeah.
show. So it's just
Are you
summertime in Colorado.
You're doing a
so
lot of outdoor shows right now, right?
a lot of outdoor
Yeah.
shows. Yeah, almost
Yeah.
a lot of municipals. Friday was Bennett. Thursday was Highlands Ranch, and then a lot of some of the venues that just open up patios in the summer and
Yeah.
doing outdoor stuff there.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
before we go too much further, I'd love to give people a little bit more context about who you are.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure,
this
sure.
is all, it's so super chill, but like, you're a country artist.
Yes.
Original, mostly. No.
Mostly
cover.
covers.
Sorry,
Yep.
mostly cover.
And
Yeah.
then slowly
say,
trickling
working
the
in the
originals
originals.
in
Right.
Yep.
as
And
they come out.
and you play constantly.
Yes.
And you were named Colorado New Country Artist of the Year or something a couple times, right? Is that
So
the right?
2019, the Colorado Country Music Hall of Fame, I got the Newcomer of the Year. And then
Mm-hmm.
in 2021, they gave me Entertainer of the Year.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
Which is
but see, I got to be careful because 2021 it's starting to sound too
Oh,
far away.
you gotta get a new accolade.
We were joking for one of the announcements for one of these shows. Ryan Elwood, who we all know, him
Yeah.
and I were having this conversation where I was like, when they introduced me, I'm like, it's like at a point they can't say 2021 anymore because it's like, oh, that's starting to sound
That's
too far.
like
Like it needs
back
to be
in the pandemic era, yeah.
award-winning artist. Like
Right.
that's
like
and they've
Right.
nominated me for things, but they haven't given me anything since then.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Like he used to be really good.
So, yeah.
He's just
Like,
riding
20
on.
He's really
21,
fallen off
like-
since 21.
Like, it's starting to sound every year that year it gets further away.
Further
I'm
away,
like,
yeah. How many gigs do you do a year? I know the answer to this. but-
So the last 2 years have been it's like 220 something. I don't remember
Yeah.
the exact number. So
That's a lot.
I think you have a legitimate claim to the busiest guy. It's
Yeah.
probably you and Josh Blackburn.
yeah, Blackbird
Yeah,
plays
yeah.
a lot. There's
Yeah.
another, Kevin Austin's another country guy. He plays
yeah,
a lot
Kevin,
too.
yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
not. I'm up there. I
Yeah,
would think,
yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Which, hey, let's talk. Let's actually go back and talk history a little bit because I know it wasn't when you started making music. Well, let's start when you started making music. I mean, I met you at Performance High early on. It was when you were first starting to do solo stuff.
Yeah.
2014, maybe even.
No, it wasn't. Well,
No, maybe 17.
yeah, 17, 18.
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. So I'm come from a musical family. My dad's a professional working musician. He played in and fronted multiple country bands going back to like the late 70s.
Yeah.
And really played full time all the way up into like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Ended the band that he had at that time, and then kind of just started doing pickup work and like sideman stuff.
right.
And he still does that to this day. So he was he was in the house band for an open stage at a bar in Denver called Buck and Harley's, which has then since become the venue and then is now something else.
Oh,
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
That's right.
So I started going out there. I mean, I grew up playing, picking it up here and there, and then putting
Yeah.
it down and picking it up and stuff like that. And then it was, I guess it was around 2015, 2016, I started going to this open stage with him. And they really just kind of, they were like, yeah, just come up on stage, plug your guitar in, and just like, kind of jam along and figure
Yeah.
it out as we
Yeah.
go. It's a bunch of old school guys where it was one of those things where like they would start a song and I would kind of look for direction and they would just go, it's in the key of A. I'm like, and they're like, figure it out. You're like, oh, that's how this goes. So that was kind of my first exposure to like playing live and stuff like that. So did that for a while. From there, started doing open mics, doing like the solo acoustic thing. Then got introduced to you guys. Started working with you guys for some vocal stuff, and then doing a couple of the showcases.
That's right. And then we started, and I don't remember why, but we started talking about doing gigs as a duo.
Yeah, I think. Well, I was working with a guy that it just wasn't really working out, and was looking kind of go a different direction.
That's right.
And then I reached out to you, said,
Yeah.
hey, would you be interested in picking up some work? So yeah, you and I were doing duo stuff. I think that was like 18, 19.
18, 19, up till the pandemic kind of slowed everything down. We were
Yeah.
working kind of a lot together.
Yeah.
And obviously you're still working. And then, gosh, it's just kept going up and up for you. I mean, just to speak for you, I mean, it's like I've seen in the past couple of years since, it's not like I never play with you, but it's pretty rare. And, which has been great because you've got like more of a regular band and, not having to swap guys out as much. But anyway, my point is, you were doing mostly the solo and duo stuff, and then you were getting the full band, consistent work. And then this year, you've been really breaking in hard into, like you said, the municipal town parties and the more public events like that. And it just, it just seems to be moving on up.
Yeah, it still feels like it's trending upward. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll ride that until it goes the other way.
Yeah. yeah.
We talk
But-
about we all have those fears.
There is an arc for every
I
artist.
know. I'm like, it still feels like it's going this way. So I mean, let's go for it.
Yeah. When we start seeing ours, I'm going to be like, bye. I don't want to take the road down.
Not going to do the backside of that
Nope,
hill.
nope.
Yeah. So yeah, I was doing a lot of. It was mostly the duo and solo stuff, and then it was actually in 2020, doing so much acoustic stuff. When things started to open up that summer, I was able to pick up a lot of the outdoor patio work, and because places were still hosting music, and just continued to build relationships. And then it was like later that year, all of a sudden, a couple people started asking me, "Do you have a band?" And I'm like, sure, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And luckily I know a lot of great musicians. And
Sure.
My dad being a resource to introduce me to people, and I kind of started just doing these hired gun bands. Went into 21, still doing a lot of acoustic stuff, but the band started to pick up momentum. By the end of 21, I really went into 22 all in going, the band, I'm going to really push the band, especially on like Fridays and Saturday nights.
Right.
And then I'm like, if I can pick up acoustic work on the weeknights, I'll do that, but I'm going to really go forward with the band. So the last 3 years has really been mostly band stuff. And then on like, Wednesday, Tuesday nights, Saturday afternoons, stuff like that, I'll pick up, some acoustic stuff if I
Right.
can. But like, yeah, the last year started picking up municipality stuff and fairs and rodeos and stuff, and then that is pushed further into this year and
it's-
continue. Like, I think we're doing. almost like every Thursday night. I mean, there's a couple bars dropped in, like the Country Thursdays at the tailgate, but mostly it's Highlands Ranch, it's Fort Morgan, it's Bennett, it's
Well, you've even
whatever
done some
I'm
out of
forgetting.
state stuff, right? You've done
So
some,
yeah, we went to Nebraska, picked up some Nebraska stuff this year.
Yeah.
Went to Wyoming last year. Have talked to New Mexico, but haven't been able to make dates work.
Wow.
So starting to get the regional
Yeah.
label,
Yeah.
I guess you would call it.
So I have questions for you on behalf of artists who are aspiring to play lots more shows and take things more seriously. I know that you've gotten feedback, or you got feedback like years and years ago from somebody who booked you saying like you shouldn't be playing so many shows, you need to draw better, radius clauses, all that stuff. So that's like the first half of the question. How have you been able to move forward and play so many shows like all the time without having to deal with that pushback from venues? And second, after you answered that, I'd love to talk about how you've been able to raise your rates over time, because I know that I've heard, kind of the discussion from Justin, but I think it would be
Yeah.
a great strategy to share, because I know that you're just doing better and better all the time.
For sure. I think the first one, so some of that has been experience. I mean, I have gotten some venues I have gotten kickback to, in terms of like radius and stuff like that. And a lot of it is learning to navigate my schedule. Like, okay, if I'm playing, a venue in Parker, maybe don't book another one 2 weeks later or something like that.
Oh, so you're just moving around
Yeah,
enough
so
to
I'm
make
all
it work.
over
Okay.
Colorado. So like this weekend, we did Highlands Ranch, then we did Bennett, and then I forget where it was Saturday night. Sorry. Parker on Saturday night, and then North Glen today. And these were all band
Okay.
gigs. And then we go up to Loveland. Like we'll go to Loveland one night, and then the next night we'll be in Aurora or in Parker or in Colorado Springs
Okay.
or Evergreen.
Yeah, I guess the Front Range and Colorado as a whole,
Yeah.
they're just big enough that if you just are intelligent about your locations, you don't run into radius issues. And
Try not to.
And you're very strategic. I mean, you're like when you're putting out those booking inquiries, you're like thinking about making sure that you're bouncing around. And like you said, you're not in Parker 2 weekends in a row. You're not in Evergreen 2 weekends in a row at different places.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it slips up sometimes. Sometimes you get places
Yeah, of
calling you
course.
of like, hey, they really want a date. And I'm like, well, this is all I've got. And this is, sometimes I'll even tell a venue. I'm like, well, here, I've got this date, but I'm playing here.
Yeah.
So try to be respectful of that as best as I can. But also, I also take an approach with a lot of these where I was like, we are a working band. So, like, yes, we have a very good following, and people do come to see us, and we build reputations in all these cities and these different clubs. But we try to look at it also as we're working together with the venue as well. Like, my responsibility for bringing people and also theirs, like we fall together. Let's equally promote. Let's work this together and stuff like that. And I put more thought and stuff too also into like the band stuff. The band is really the draw. The acoustic stuff, it's kind of like a lot of it's background noise stuff or it's
Right.
corner bar stuff and
Right.
everything like that. And that's I just kind of pick up as I can.
Yeah.
And I've
Right.
for the acoustic stuff, I don't know if I've ever gotten any kickback on
any pushback? you mean?
pushback
Yeah,
on the acoustic. I mean, probably at some point I have that I'm just not top of mind.
Yeah.
So
Somebody maybe said,
just I try to be as strategic as possible, but also while still maintaining that we're a working band.
Yeah, yeah. And then you've been able to raise your rates over time.
Yes.
Can you talk about your strategy for doing that?
A lot of it is I think providing a professional product that continues to elevate. Like I think the band as a whole, myself, I think everything can always continue
Absolutely.
to get better. And a lot of that is, building good relationships with, fans, clientels of these restaurants and building good relationships with the bar owners. If you show up and you perform, you do a good job, and then you do it multiple times throughout the year, then I'll open that conversation at the end of the year going, okay, I will happily come back next year, but I'm looking at
Right.
bumping my rates up. Will you accept this or will you accept that? And then some of it is, I think, I've gotten out there enough that, some of these venues are aware of who I am and, they see what we do or what I do. And then I'm able to just, when I meet new ones, I'm all of a sudden starting at a higher rate than I was
Right.
previously. And then,
Yeah.
the ones that won't give you raises or that won't work with you at all, you just slowly don't book them as much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. I've heard you say, you've got venues where you're like, it's not that you won't play there, but you're not going to book it 3 months out.
Yeah.
It's like if they call 2 weeks out and you just happen to be free, then okay. But like, you're not
Yeah.
going to block out. And that's, I got to say though, I think you hit on such a great thing there, which is job one, make a good product that people want.
Well, I think that's the big one is, yeah.
And a lot of musicians complain about this and all that, and people don't value musicians, and people don't this and that, and it's like, well, maybe the product should be looked at.
Yeah.
It's funny to me because Josh Blackburn will occasionally comment on Facebook on posts where musicians are complaining about like, oh, you can't get gigs in this town, and nobody pays, and blah blah blah, and Josh will just very politely be like, well, I am very busy and I get paid very well, so it is possible.
Well, and I think that goes to, and I think we, being in the industry as long as, and we all have, I think we see it as like sometimes musicians can be, rough on each other, and like they can turn. It can turn competitive and things like that. And I've always kind of just taken an approach of like, there is enough work out there for everybody. You just got to go get it,
Yeah.
Like, and there's no reason to be mad or jealous or, backstabbing and all that stuff that I think you see on that social media and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's out there.
I mean, I think there's nothing to complain about in Denver Metro. There's more work than,
Yeah.
Yeah,
there are a lot of venues here.
As so many people. I actually read somewhere that we might have the most music venues per capita of anywhere in the country.
Wow.
Yeah,
like
I read
adjusted
that
for
somewhere.
population, that we have more places with music than anywhere else, like including Nashville or.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
How are you guys doing with the heat? Do you want to put the fan back on and deal with the sound?
I'm not dying. I'm a little.
I'm up there.
Okay.
A little
All right.
clammy. Sorry again.
Sorry,
I've been
to our
clammy all
listeners.
day, so.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Just wanted to check on you guys.
We've been here 3 summers. This is the earliest we've even thought about turning on the swamp cooler.
Wow.
Yeah.
Last summer was crazy with all the rain and everything.
Yeah, it was like
it just
Seattle
wasn't
last
any-
summer.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it
I would
wasn't
love to
any-
hear about if you can think of any gig disasters or such stories, like embarrassing moments or disastrous moments. I mean, you play so much. There's got to be some times where some things went terribly wrong.
I'll tell my favorite first because I maybe even have told the story before on the podcast, but I tell it all the time because it just to me is really funny. We were playing out near Morrison at wherever that place that's kind of up the hill in Morrison. Sitting something.
The Sitting Bull.
Sitting Bull. You and I were playing there.
Yeah.
And these 2 girls were very drunk.
Oh, yeah.
And they wanted to hear Fishing in the Dark. And you were like, I really do not know that song. And then here they come back 15 minutes later, and they're like, please play Fishing in the Dark. And you're like, I promise you, I know what that song is. I don't know that song. And then finally you're like, I'm telling you, all I know is the Fishing in the Dark. And then so finally, after like an hour or 2 of this, you were just like, fine. And you started playing it. And they got all excited and they started dancing, and then you just started singing, you and me going fishing in the dark. You and me going fishing in the dark. It was like, it was
that's funny.
Just that one line over.
just that one line over it. And you told them,
Like, this is all I know.
you told them
Yeah.
10 times that's all you knew, and they just kept begging for it. So you finally just did it. And they were like, ah.
Oh, that's so funny.
I think about that. I think about that like once a month. I don't know why that's so funny to me.
Oh, that's good. I probably have done that stuff like that multiple times. But man, I can. There's a couple of things that come to mind because they're recent. So this is, I guess, a testament to Soundcraft mixers. All right, I can't believe this happened. We were setting up. It's my mixer, and it was a venue that had full like speakers and everything like that. But I just had to plug into my mixer and then run sound for the band for the night. And we're plugging in and sound checking. I've got the mixer plugged in. So at this point, we were, I don't know, an hour to hour and a half before the gig even starts. And I smell something burning. my guitar player and I are over there, and I'm like, I smell electronics burning. Like, what is burning? And they've got, but there's another mixer, like a house mixer that's there, and then I've got a rack that has wireless units for ears and for a guitar, and then I have the mixer, and then there's a router, and then they have a router, and there's all this stuff. And there's no smoke, and we can't, and everything at this point, the smell of electronics burning, everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
now
yeah,
it's
yeah.
everywhere, and you're like, well, I'm like, and I can't pinpoint it. We're trying to figure it out, and we're just like, all right, well, I guess we'll just see what happens.
It's so scary.
So,
No.
and I had forgotten about it. We do the gig, but the next morning I woke up and I'm like, oh, I need to check all my stuff and make sure nothing of mine was
yeah.
burning. So sure enough, I immediately plug in the mixer, and within like a minute, I'm like, there's the smell. Like, great, it's my mixer. Like, okay. So
And
I
your mixer performed all
the
night?
mixer performed. It
Oh
gets
my
better.
gosh.
So then I take it out of the rack and I take the lid off the mixer, and it's smoking. So, and there is a burning ember on the circuit board.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it ran. We smelled this like 5 hours before the gig was over, and it ran all night long and never blew a circuit, never
Oh
shut
my
down.
gosh.
And I mean, and I'm like, I don't know how lucky we are that made it through a 4-hour show.
Yeah.
But
You
it
sent
made
me,
it, and
You sent me a video.
yes,
It looked like there was like a burning cigarette
there was-
like
yeah,
down in the
it was.
circuit of.
Oh
it was
my
just
gosh.
a cherry
Yeah.
of something.
Did some foreign object get in there? Or was
So
it,
I asked the repair guy, and he's like, he goes, usually it's moisture. He goes, but there's a lid and it's racked. He goes, I've never seen it before. He goes, I've talked to Soundcraft. They've never seen it before. We have no idea, but they
It-
warranted it and they fixed it, and it worked all night on fire. So
wow.
It looked like it was near the power supply.
yes, it was the power supply.
Yeah,
circuit board.
yeah, the
Okay.
little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
so that was a recent one that I'm just like,
near
not a
miss, yeah.
disaster, but a near
Yeah.
one where I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I had one actually. Sometimes with some of these shows, we played the Estes Park Rodeo last weekend, and they don't like you to do a lot of sound checking and stuff during the rodeos. So a lot of it is try to individualize each instrument, and I was running sound for us. It was my system. So, and he's basically like, hey, the rodeo gets out and start the show. So band's on stage, and I'm standing out basically where the audience is going to be. And it's like, as soon as he gives you the signal, it's like, go, I'm going to dial us in. And it got hectic really fast. The crowd came faster than I thought it was. So
man.
I'm looking at the band to start. There was and one of the mistakes I made is I was unmuting each individual channel without unmuting the whole system. I didn't unmute the monitors, and I think one of the guys was waiting for me to unmute the monitor, but I'm now 20 yards away, and I'm trying to get them like, hey, start the show. Like, what's going on? Let's start the song. So they're starting. I'm mixing out front. I get up on stage, and that's when I finally recognize that, oh, I didn't unmute the monitors. So the band's going. Then I'm sound checking with my acoustic guitar, but for the first song, after we finish the sound check instrumental, I was
Right.
going to my electric guitar. Switched to my electric, and all of a sudden my electric guitar doesn't work, which was working when we sound checked. I later found out that a cable ended up getting pinched and shutting the guitar down. So then I switched back to my acoustic. In the process of trying to unmute everything, I have the iPad on a stand that I'm running sound from. I knocked the iPad over. So all of this is happening in the first song.
Oh gosh.
So I'm just trying
no.
to get us dialed in, and it took like 2 songs of like chaos
Yeah.
just to get things dialed in and then settle down. But the thing is that the crowd came out of the arena, and we had like 300 people up to the stage, like right in front of
Oh
us.
my
So
gosh.
like all
Well,
this, and I'm trying to do all this stuff, and it was just
And
like,
perform.
oh
Oh, man.
get through those 2 songs. And then I was like, okay, now I can just play and do. So that was another recent
That's
one. There was kind of
stressful.
like a hectic, stressful
Yeah.
couple,
Yeah. You
5
pretty much always
minutes.
run your own sound, right?
Probably 50-50.
Oh, okay.
So some venues provide it. Some provide, like the one where the mixer was on fire, where they provide the equipment, but then I run the mixer, and then there's stuff where I have to bring everything.
Yeah,
so
everything.
And I guess a lot of municipal stuff is probably they're providing sound for
Most
you.
of 'em, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
nice.
sure.
Yeah.
That is, I do not miss having to play and run live.
Yeah,
sound.
that's probably
Yeah.
like one of my least favorite things to do.
Yeah, it is. It is
Yeah.
really hard to do. And you're singing. I mean, I've done it for years, but I'm usually just playing guitar, or even in the old bar gig days, like maybe I'd sing one song a set or something. Like, so I had room to like halfway stop playing and just solve a problem.
Yeah.
Well, I've got enough saved mixes. I've got us pretty well dialed in that I can get us close. And I also can, again, just from experience of working with the system, I can look at the meters and get a general idea of like, okay, if my acoustic is here, then my voice needs to be here and the electric needs to be here. And it's not an exact science, but it at least gives me, I could reference it from the stage based on how it sounded when I was out front originally.
Right.
And then some, like if there's a good place, I have a couple handheld recorders. If they're going to have a set break and there's a chance, I will try to put that out somewhere. And then during the set break, I'll run out to my truck and I'll listen real quick and go, okay, vocal needs to come up or this needs to come down. So mostly I can get us close, but it's never like having a front of house.
Yeah.
So.
That level of professionalism is so great, though. I mean, you actually like really do the, you really try and make it good, and
Well,
I'm always impressed by that.
What happened though, this is what made me finally start doing that, is I got tired of recording a gig and then going home after the gig and being pissed off that I'm like, the mix sounds like shit.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry,
No, you can
That's
absolutely cut.
Like, am I allowed to do that? Sorry.
Yeah,
'Cause
sorry.
They're going to slip every now and then.
Yeah.
Sorry, moms. They're used to it.
But it would drive me crazy going like, oh, if I just would have known, I could have brought the lead guitar up or I could have brought this down
Yeah.
or up. And so I'm like, I should just go out to the truck during the break instead of doing this the next morning and going,
When you can't fix it.
I would have made this sound so much better.
Yeah, dude. And the amount that you kick yourself over that kind of thing, it just doesn't go away quickly.
Hey, just dropping in to say that is the end of part 1. We like to keep these kind of short, so we're going to divide this one up into 2 parts. We're going to call the next one part 2 for legal reasons. And we are sponsored, as always, by Performance High. And we really appreciate you being here and hanging out with us. We'll see you next week.